You don't think there can be any truth to the Dark Man's supernatural existence?
Alone in the Dark has had a long and strange journey as a game series, with 1 soft and 3 hard reboots.
Giggity.
It all started back in 1992, and then we saw the first hard reboot on the PS3 and 360. In 2015, we got Alone in the Dark Illumination, a game I didn't even know existed. And of course, who could forget, and honestly I wish I could, the 2005 movie. With this new version, the game goes back to its roots, 1924 Lovecraftian horror. Let's dive in and see if Alone in the Dark is worth playing or if it's a pass. And stick around because I'll share my thoughts at the end. When you first enter the world of Alone in the Dark, you're greeted with an alligator chomping down on a frog in a stunning dust setting. One of the first areas of the mansion is this incredible looking atrium, with a massive tree and glasswork all around it. At first I kinda expected this game to be like most other horror games now, with that dark, gray tone and heavy film grain, but it's not. It's crisp and clean, with a flashlight to help you see in the dark areas. But even in the darkness, the environment maintains its visibility. It's the exact opposite of Callisto Protocol, where you struggle to see anything. And my eyes thank you, Pieces Interactive. Once you get a bit further, the world and locations start to change dramatically. You end up in the dark streets with fog and creatures roaming about. In the late game, it even takes you to some very unexpected locations, like a tomb in Egypt. The developer decided to use some big name actors for the roles, like Jodie and David Harbour. Even though they used real people for the models, it still has that artist touch. And I honestly prefer this because they still allow the artist to make the decisions and don't try to replicate real life. Alone in the Dark looks great, and it runs mostly at 60 frames a second, but it's not just about looking good. The visuals play a major role in the puzzle solving. The details you notice can likely be the key to surviving the horrors ahead. But does the gameplay hold up as well as the visuals? Let's dive into the mechanics and see how it all comes together. One of the key things you need to know about Alone in the Dark is that it's not an action game with horror elements. It's a psychological thriller. While it has combat, it's used sparingly, much like classic survival horror games. Resources are limited, and melee weapons break, leaving you defenseless. I learned that the hard way a couple of times because I ran out of ammo. There are some throwable items, and they can be useful in the sneaking sections. The gameplay does put a big focus on puzzle solving. Some puzzles require you to look around the environment for clues, whether it's a date on a picture frame, or these strange dark lines that need to be lined up. There's even backtracking between rooms to find key items, just like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. One recurring puzzle involves a medallion that transports you to these otherworldly realms, where you need to use your notes to find the numbers to unlock the doorways. The game does a great job of making you rely on documents and the clues you find to solve puzzles and open safes, a mechanic that is sorely missing from most modern games. Alone in the Dark does have 2 playable characters, but not really 2 separate playthroughs, which is the most disappointing part about it. Only a few key segments are changed, just like in the Resident Evil 2 remake. It's not a long game either, only around 5 to 7 hours. But I can't say this is a bad thing because Resident Evil 2 is the same length, and a lot shorter if you speedrun it. I just did a run through of Resident Evil 3 and beat it in 1 hour and 20 minutes, and Alone in the Dark is a lot longer than that. The game has received some updates over time. They've added in a new Game Plus mode, which is a plus. Starting off the game with a shotgun and a Tommy gun is pretty fun. Then there are these collectibles called this.
What?
Which doesn't even look like a real word, and they also added in a photo mode. The game's blend of resource management, puzzle solving, and selective combat creates a tense, classic survival horror experience. Let's dive into the sound and story, the elements that help tie the psychological thriller atmosphere together. Set in the 1920s, Alone in the Dark offers an intriguing mix of period-appropriate music and atmospheric sound design. As you wander through the Deserto mansion, you hear subtle jazz undertones blending in with the ambient creaks of the old houses and the clinks of items your character has on them. When you're playing as Carnby, you can hear the jingle of keys or a chain as he moves, adding just an extra layer to the sound. Of course, being a modern game, it also has monologues where the characters talk to themselves, which does help fill in the story gaps, even if it does make them sound crazy. The story is confusing and beyond strange, with two separate events happening. The main one involves Emily and her uncle Jeremy. Their family suffers from a curse, and Jeremy, a painter, is tormented by visions of the Dark Man. He desperately is trying to lift the curse so Emily won't suffer the same fate. The other plot is something I won't spoil because it's even stranger. One thing I really like though is that all of the notes and articles you find are narrated by the writers. This gives you more insight into the history of the Deserto Manor and Jeremy's struggles. Alone in the Dark has had a long, winding journey as a series, and this latest installment is a return to its Lovecraftian roots with an emphasis on psychological horror. It may not be perfect. Its short length and limited differences between playthroughs may disappoint some players, but the atmosphere, clever puzzles, and solid sound design make it a great experience for fans of survival horror. If you enjoy games that focus on tension, story, and exploration over action, this might just be worth checking out. Ultimately, whether it's a play or pass is always up to you. But for me, this one is a play. I had a great time with it, but I do love horror games. Anyways, thanks for watching, and would you kindly leave a like and subscribe, and I'll talk to y'all later.